Michelle Coombs. Really enjoyed my time with Michelle. Fascinating background, a pure kind of engineering background. Grew up on a farm. She's from Birmingham, United Kingdom, and was always in the mode of kind of solving issues with little resources that she and her family may have had. Really interesting how that kind of formed what she does now. And now she has a great platform that helps managed service providers and help desk technicians be more efficient. So she got one of her first jobs is working on a help desk, solving tickets for customers, and that kind of showed her the way. And now she's created Oprising, which is this great platform. She's in the ConnectWise Pitch It competition this year, and she's really teaching. She has a whole system of audit and what to do afterwards. We're just a wonderful conversation with Michelle. She's very candid and open and charming. I thank Michelle very much for your time. Thank you for watching and listening. Hi, I'm Joey Pinz, and here's my 45-second introduction. After starting my business in the 90s, I started developing poor habits of eating in my diet because of working way too much. Before you know it, I found myself 340 pounds. The doctor told me if I don't lose the weight, I'm not going to see my daughter graduate. Took the next 7 months, lost 130 pounds. People think there's some secret. Ask me, how'd you lose that weight? Like there's some secret. There is no secret. How did I lose the weight? Just one word: discipline. I've had other successes in life, and I attribute them all to discipline. Now, I'm not the king of discipline, but I believe that it can help all of us. Friends, colleagues convinced me to start a podcast. The podcast mission: how do we better ourselves and society? I talk to interesting people in health, fitness, sport, wellness, business, technology, science, art, and culture. And I eventually ask them how discipline plays a role in their life. Podcast vision: growth through learning from others. Michelle Coombs, thank you for your time today. So tell me, what does Korean and Chinese TV do for you? How does it calm you?
Oh my God, so my brain works like super actively and I can't chill and relax anywhere. So what I find is there's always something like work related or something, normally something I've forgotten, probably more so than anything. But what it does is it ties my brain up. So I have to read the words and I listen in their language. So I pick up certain words and I have to watch the pictures as well. And it doesn't let my brain have any capacity for thinking about additional stuff. So it properly fries my brain so I can relax.
In this fast-paced MSP landscape, how do you stay ahead? Introducing MSPinfluencer.com, your ultimate hub for MSP news, insights, and community connection, powered by ForzaDash. More than 75,000 MSPs subscribe to our MSP Influencer Pulse weekly newsletter, staying informed and ahead of industry trends. Tune in to emerging podcasts from Joey Pinz and leading MSP voices, offering essential tips, powerful insights, and success stories. Explore our multi-authored blogs, crafted specifically for MSP leaders, delivering fresh perspectives and actionable strategies. Celebrate excellence with the industry-leading ForzaDash MSP Influencer Awards, recognizing innovation, leadership, and impact in the MSP community. Join thousands of MSP professionals who trust MSPinfluencer.com to grow their business and expand their networks. MSPinfluencer.com, where today's MSP leaders connect, collaborate, and conquer, all powered by the ForzaDash platform, helping MSP vendors work effectively with MSPs and helping MSPs grow. So the subtitles force you to focus just a little bit more, disallowing any kind of stray thoughts, and that's very interesting. I happened just to watch a Japanese movie last night, and it does do a good job of that. It's a really good point. You can't really drift away, because if you do, you'll miss dialogue.
Exactly. And then you have to go back and watch it again. And that's inefficient in my mind. I don't want to do that. I'm sat that if I've got the TV on, it's not very often that it happens, but when the TV is on, that's because I need to chill and take a break.
So that could really work for any foreign language.
It could, yeah.
Any particular affinity to Korean and Chinese?
No, I started to learn Mandarin. I did my HSK, the first part of it. I never did the exam, but I went and learned it. But I lived overseas, so I lived in Egypt for 4 years, and I went and learned how to. I went and learnt my letters and some basic phrases so I could get by. And then I lived in Bulgaria for 9 months, where it's the Cyrillic alphabet, and I had a massive communication problem because this is This is no. This is yes.
You're
So when I
kidding me. The
first no,
opposite?
it's the opposite. So of course, when you don't speak the language, a smile you can get away with and a wave. And I used to go like 4 of those, and she'd go to grab it, and she'd give me like this one, and I'd go yeah, and she'd move to the other, and I'd go no, and that's what I'd end up with. So I quickly,
Wow.
I found an English teacher for primary school kindergartners because there was very little in the way of English speaking, and got her. If I thought if she could teach kids English, she can teach me Bulgarian. So she taught me the alphabet, and my pronunciation on words would be off, but
Mm.
at least I'd be able to stand a fighting chance and make the effort. And I think the effort is what's appreciated.
Of course. Yeah. My father's from Italy and I spent some time over there. And not just the Italians, but a lot of the Southern Europeans, when they say no, they do the sound. They go, and so, and I remember hearing that, and sometimes they wouldn't shake their head no, but I just hear the, and I just eventually learn, okay, that means no. So
Hmm.
yeah, it's interesting how cultures are different that way.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting. Yeah. And
Mm.
so spending all that time in those foreign countries, Michelle, what did that teach you about culture and people? And that was a really great experience. Let's take Egypt. You were there, you said 6 years?
For 4 years. I
Four
was working with the
years.
Peacekeepers 15 kilometres from the Gaza Strip
Oh,
with 11
wow.
countries' military forces. So I didn't just have Egyptian guys working for me, I'd have to interact with the Egyptians and the Israelis and all of these countries' military forces. I think the key learning for me was just don't be a dick, really. There's no
Mm.
other way of phrasing it.
Kindness
Just be
helps.
a
Yeah.
nice
Yeah.
person that wants to help.
Wow. And that really translates everywhere. So tell me about what were you like before the age of 18? So like what were some of your passions, your formative years? What were your frustrations?
Um, That's a tough question, Joey, because I'm very protective of stuff like this. I don't usually get deep. So it was my dad that brought me up. My mum left when I was 4.
Mm.
My dad was an engineer, so he didn't know how to raise girls. So I had a motorbike when I was 3 years old that I used to
Whoa.
learn. I didn't have a push bike. I had a little like pit bike because he used to race sidecars. He's over in the Isle of Man. Got to go and fetch him later.
Nice.
And anyway, he was into telecoms, and then it moved into data cabling, and he used to take me to site with him. But because he was a single parent bringing up me and my brother, we ended up living with my grandparents on a farm. So of
Interesting.
course it was about helping out, mucking out animals, hay baling, all that kind of stuff. But it was great because we were out in the countryside. You could pretty much get away with most stuff back in those days. So
Mm.
it used to just cause chaos, playing the streams, all the rest of it. So much more fun than now, or
Mm.
reading. Yeah.
Growing up on a farm, I have friends that done that. There's a whole kind of level of I don't know, discipline and focus that happens there because all those chores need to get done. Doesn't matter the holiday, doesn't matter the weather. Those chores, those animals or fields need to be tended.
Yeah, absolutely. Never mind the fact that my grandma was a strict disciplinarian.
Whoa.
So, yeah, the punishments were extreme, shall we say. But it teaches you resilience out of the back
Mm.
of that when you're on the receiving end of it. And it also, I think, if you're thinking about discipline, um, there's a lot to be said about that for business owners. You don't realize it at the time, but you're building these character traits as you're growing
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
And it's just funny how y- you hated them at the time, but later on, they drive you.
Mm.
And now you can't shut off and you end up having to watch TV in Korean so that you can give your brain a break.
Most certainly. And so what did you what were your passions back then? What did you like you said there were some things that you didn't like that you later appreciate, but did you like engineering because you were in that your father was an engineer? What were some of your passions then?
Yeah, so passions would have been. Um, Staying away from home. So I would go and do things like the Army and the Air Cadets as well. So
Uh,
that I think it was so I could get out of the house. Because, of course, in those days you had to be back by dark, which in winter was like 4 o'clock, something
right.
ridiculous. Because there was a long, long walk across country roads and tracks where it was a bit dangerous to walk in the middle of the night kind of thing in the dark. So my grandma was always, be home by dark. But otherwise, apart from that, it was pretty much reading, playing with IT bits and pieces. So it would be like stripping cables and understand how they work. So I read a book
Wow.
actually around 10, 11 years old about how telecom signals travel down fiber optic cable, but the way that it was written for like MD CEOs to understand the principles of the technology. So it was written in very basic language, because obviously I was 10 or 11. It was well written, but it had little illustrations and it was cute. So I found that fascinating. But passions, apart from doing weird stuff, it was things like rafting, building rafts, or making a tree swing, or doing something. You wouldn't believe it now looking at me, but it was all those kind of adrenaline kind of things that would set you off. And probably that's why I ended up skydiving and stuff later on before I had my daughter, because it's that what makes you feel alive, although you could very much end up dead very shortly. Yeah.
But it seems like you were solving problems with engineering type solutions.
Yeah, because on the farm we didn't have much money growing up, so
Right.
we had to repair and fix things rather than buying new. So we would do a lot of recycling or upcycling or whatever it is to make something out of what we'd already got.
You had to learn to be crafty and learn to use what you had. So later then you started doing skydiving and more kind of thrilling things like this. I skydove once and enjoyed it incredibly.
Oh, I absolutely loved it, and I ended up getting ground rush a couple of times, and ended up being injured in Spain and
Oh.
having to fly home. So a lot of stuff I do on my own, and having to organise my flights home, and my dad would have to pick me up at the airport and drive me home to take me off to a UK hospital because I didn't speak Spanish. There's a lot about languages in here, isn't there?
I
So I
guess,
like
yeah.
language. It's very interesting.
Well, how we communicate. Yeah, it is very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, and then that gets even funnier, because about that, how you communicate, I ended up leading a particularly large team, and I was thinking, why are these guys not doing what I'm telling them to do? It's easiest when it's a smaller team and you've hired. You get the right people. But when you inherit a team that's larger, it's like, why aren't they doing what I wanted them to do? So I thought, I'll go and learn how to coach these people because there's something wrong. And it wasn't, it was me, obviously, because I could not communicate. So I say I had to go and learn how to be human, because I was technical and went up through the ranks, and as it were, and yeah, it just, how do people operate, and how do I operate so that I can adapt to meet people where they are. And that was a massive thing for me, and that was probably because you wouldn't have got me on this kind of program beforehand. I could barely speak to 2 or 3 strangers at a time, and now I'll talk to anybody, but it'll be draining later. But I've got recovery methods for that.
I see. So you just assume that people will meet you where you are and you didn't have to meet them where they are.
Well, I thought everybody was worked the same. You see, I didn't know about all the differences. You see, I knew that there was different output that I could see and observe,
Interesting.
but I didn't think anything different went in the way that they were thinking. I thought everybody was pretty much the same. It's
Because
like
that
a
had been your
computer, right?
experience. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So how do you get involved with IT?
Obviously, when I was little, my dad used to take, because I was smaller, way smaller than him. I used to be able to get behind the rack, so I used to lug all the cables through for him. So he used to take me to site. But he bought, apart from the book on fiber optics, he bought home like bits of kit and all the rest of it. So we'd sit there programming in like the old basic,
Really?
to get the games to play. And I always knew I wanted to be some form of engineer. I didn't know if it was going to be mechanical. But then there was electrical and electronic, which is how I went into my studies. And I knew I wanted to do something with computers by about 16, 17. But I didn't know what exactly it was going to be.
I remember making that decision at one point too. Will I go into actually electronics or will I go into actually, yeah, you have to kind of make that. It was an easy decision once I started doing basic and things like that. What made you go to one side versus the other?
Um, well, I did my college course in electronics because they didn't really have like the kind of computing courses that we have now. So I was kind of forced by what the college had got. And then when I was looking for my first role, I'd started distance learning for my degree, so I could work and study at the same time. And I got a job on a help desk, and I got that opportunity because the guy had also studied through distance learning while he was working. So he appreciated that kind of commitment to your own development, and I got that opportunity.
So what was it like working on a help desk at that age? That must have been pretty interesting, getting these tickets in and trying to solve problems like that.
Well, we had no RMM in those days. It was like the late 90s.
Uh,
I'm old, Joey. I'm old,
no,
right?
you're not.
So,
RMM is a tool that allows you to fix things remotely.
yeah. So,
Yes.
sorry. I've dropped letters in there and I forgot to
Yeah.
explain. So there was nothing like that. So it was literally a log and flog service, but that bored me. So I'm always looking for ways of
Flog and
challenging
flog.
myself. So what I did was I tried some basic troubleshooting because I had computers at home, so I could figure stuff out, a little lab, and I would try stuff and see how that went. And it got to the point where I had a buddy down in the workshop. We used to go out for a break at the same time, and we used to chatter. And he used to start giving me kit, and I'd take it back to my desk in between calls and clean it up, fix it up, take it back down. You'd like give it the once over and give me another bit. And I started learning like NT4 and that kind of thing. And they ended up having to make a queue so that I could put my remotely solved tickets in there. Because rather than sending them off to the engineer, because he was getting all my credit. So, yeah, so I did that and then went into a more hands-on role afterwards.
And that was your road, and you liked it so much you knew this was going to be your career?
I think it was the fixing of equipment. So I knew I was always in IT at that point. That was it.
Yeah.
I was stuck. There was no way I was budging from there. And yeah, I just really, really got into it. I like finding ways to overcome obstacles. Now I've got coach friends, right? And they say, oh, obstacles and overcoming challenges shouldn't be part of your values and all the rest of it. And I think if you remember, I said about the meeting people in their model of the world. She's not meeting me in mine because for me that's a good thing. She only sees it as a negative. So it's like, no, it's a good thing to be able to put your mindset to seeing a problem and being able to resolve it.
Does give you a nice sense of completion when you solve a problem like that, doesn't it?
It does, but then it's like, what's next?
Right. Yeah, that's the way your mind works, is it? Yeah. So do you when you reach a goal, Michelle, do you celebrate it or you just move on to the next?
Generally, I just move on to the next.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things like people are going, oh wow, that's awesome, and I'm like, but I just did what I needed to do. I'm on to something else now. So no, I don't really celebrate goals. I have 4. No, I don't. I'm
At
trying to
all.
think of an example. I'm trying to think now. You can see I'm like going, what have I done where I have celebrated a goal? No, I think I might have taken myself out to dinner.
Okay.
But that was possibly as well because I didn't want to cook and it was an excuse to go out and celebrate. So I don't think it was a proper celebration or that feeling, not the feeling of elation.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? Because that's to me, a celebration would mean that elation, not a reward. The two different things, I think, for me.
Mm. Looking back now, do you celebrate wins and goals now?
Not particularly. Um, I just crack on. There's always something more to do. It's never ended. There's always something to do. And I think it's kind of linked to like a 1% better mindset. So even if I did something today that was awesome, I know that tomorrow I'd be looking to beat that. So it's when would I know the end point? I have no idea.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? So that's an interesting question, Joey. I'm going to have to think about that a little bit more now.
Yeah, oftentimes when I started my managed service provider business, I would get these wins and I wouldn't celebrate it. But later, as the wins or as the goals got set and they were a bit more lofty, I said, okay, once we achieve this, we will celebrate it this way. So to kind of sit back, pull over, enjoy it, and then move on. So it depending on the goal, of course. But we found that to be beneficial. Some people don't. How did you get introduced into the managed service provider world, the MSP, which is, of course, outsourcing IT? Businesses outsource their IT to these companies.
That was the first job that I had on the log and flog help desk.
Ah,
So I was really lucky to be introduced into the industry at that point. And then what would happen is I'd flip between um, managed service provider or IT support company, because back then I don't even think we had the MSP term
right.
back then.
Yeah.
So it was IT support companies or IT businesses, and then the customer side. So I'd always see both sides. And when I was on the customer side, I'd either be working with the MSP engineers. And later on in my career, it was about managing those relationships, negotiating the contract, making sure they were performing to that contract. So that was one side of it, and then obviously the MSP side obviously had all the processes and all the rest of it, and then I would know what the customers were grumbling about because I'd sat in that very seat, so I'd see both sides of it, and I particularly liked that difference in environment. It was useful.
I heard you use the term Wild West service desks. Explain,
Yeah.
please.
Like lack of processes, people doing what they think they should be doing because they've not got either the processes or the training or the development in place. And it's just a little bit chaotic. And yes, MSP land is always a little bit chaotic because you never know what's going to come out of a customer's environment, what issues they're going to face on that day, what the click. You don't know what's going to happen, which is awesome in its own right. But then but you don't know what's going on with your own teams as well. And when I was testing messaging for what I do, it was like, how do I do this? And I was talking to a potential client at the time, and he goes, my service desk's a bit like the Wild West, and he didn't need to say anything more. And I says, can I steal that for part of my marketing message? And he says, yeah, it's fine. But then I've reused it elsewhere, and the service desk managers and heads of service delivery managers, those kind of roles say, I know exactly what you mean. You don't need to say anything more. It's just not quite right.
What if discipline wasn't about punishment, but about unlocking your best self? I spent 2.5 years writing Discipline for Greatness because discipline changed my life. And I know it can change yours too. This isn't theory. Inside, you'll find real, practical steps you can use immediately to focus better, build stronger habits, reduce stress, accomplish your goals, and bring more balance to your life. Whether you're trying to get healthier, improve your career, or simply feel more control, this book gives you the framework. Start today. Grab your copy of Discipline for Greatness at joeypinz.com/book. Thank you. Because much like your time in the farm, these engineers are just using whatever they have to solve the problem and move on. They may not be documenting, they may not be using process, they're just solving it and moving on. So it's not their fault precisely, but this is the task in front of them. So how does Oprising help MSPs?
Okay, so for Oprising, it's about improving that operational maturity and improving the margins, reducing risk. So, for example, what would happen is the person that's responsible for continual improvement and making that service better in a way is going to do some form of assessment and understand where they want to get to. So they know that they've got an issue with let's take their incident management process, for example, because it's an easy one. Everybody's got some form of incident management. Um, Actually, no, they may have ticket management if they're not aligned into the ITIL, but it's that same kind of thing. So anyway, what they'll do is they will get their teams together, they'll understand what the challenges are with it, and they'll document absolutely everything. Now, AI is great for finding those like quantitative patterns, so they can tell you where your patterns are on your missed SLAs, the customer feedback, the kind of summarizing the message. But what it doesn't do is that qualitative side and understanding the human thought, because we don't put that into a system. We don't say this process is rubbish as we're writing out a ticket. We don't say that there's a bottleneck. It wouldn't necessarily pick that up. It would just say most of these tickets are assigned to this agent, for example. So it's about getting your team round and understanding what the problems are with that, what's working well, what we can do better. And so, for example, we identify that there's a bottleneck in there, and we know we need to do some form of action about that. So, what they can do is they can create an action to say we want to remove that bottleneck, and it could be something like to contact third parties where only the owner, particularly if it's scaled, is allowed to log tickets. So we can set all the service desk on there. So it's about identifying those improvement actions. They're all in a centralized log. Now, if you've got a commitment to improving your service, you're going to have quite a few in there, and you don't really want them clogging up your BAU tickets. So it's kept outside of the PSA for that reason at the moment, although we will look to integrate later. And then you can manage it through. So as I'm responsible for continual improvement, or whoever is responsible for the continual improvement, they would see what's critical and what's high. So if it's a case of we've done a review of our customer contracts, we're missing certain clauses, that's going to be a critical. High is about improving your customer satisfaction. It could be that you want to introduce a new feedback mechanism tool. And then you'd be able to say, right, what's going on with these, see where you're at, and be able to get that progress and traction and log it all that way.
But so the Uprising platform, you have a 381 point assessment and 1,300 improvement actions. I mean, that's intense. That's very, but that goes along with your personality that I'm learning right now. Very thorough.
Yeah, and remember, you don't need to do it all in one hit. Remember the commitment to that being that 1% better each day. So, for example, smaller MSPs who haven't got the resources to deal with those, they could say, we're just going to work on our pain point, and our pain point is incident management. And they could just work on that for that quarter, get that bedded in, and then they can say, right, what are we working on next? So they can take a more structured approach. Nothing gets missed. And everybody can be involved as well.
What do you like about working with the MSP community, Michelle?
It feels like home, Joey. I can't explain it. It's
true.
like being at home, and it's the one place where I can walk in and just feel comfortable. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Because you know
Yeah.
it so well, it's familiar. You're
Yeah.
comfortable. You know what they go through. So I started my MSP in the 90s. I sold it in 2019. And, I know what they go through. I've seen a lot of these, although it's very different now, of course, with a lot of the technologies and AI, et cetera. But still, I feel for them.
Mm-hmm.
And I still say
Yeah.
we, even though I'm no longer an MSP.
Well, that's the advantages of a community, right?
Yeah.
We're all in it together. And even when you aren't directly involved in an MSP, so for me, I've got this massive personal crazy goal of helping 350 IT and MSP folks by the end of 2032, right? So with that goal, it's always about how we can help. And when I peeled it back, it's all linked to, I just don't want to see the people I like and the people that I get on with and the community that I'm part of failing. I do not want to see that. So I just do the bit that I can to help that industry. And it's the same as you. You do it in your way. Any vendor would probably have that same kind of driver of doing something to help. It's almost like that give back time in our lives, if that makes sense.
So are help desk problems and issues process issues or people issues?
It depends. They're so different. It could also be a leadership issue. So you've heard, obviously, of people process technology, right, Joey? But I think there's a couple of things that are missing on that, because you've got leadership who's got to obviously set the direction, set those goals and objectives, say where we're going, and hold people to account. So you've got that aspect as well. The other thing that's missing, by the way, is customer. I don't think we put enough emphasis on customer, because without them, we needn't be in business.
That's right.
Yeah.
That is the
So
ultimate goal.
exactly, right? We're here to help people and make the planet spin and all the
That's
rest
right.
of it in
That's
our
right.
own way.
MSPs do not get enough credit for keeping businesses running during the COVID pandemic, for example, and these kinds of things where businesses still had to run even though they were remote.
And the stress those guys went through, oh my god,
Yeah.
it was horrible for
Yeah.
them. Because at the time I was doing an implementation project for a new environment for a customer, and luckily, I'd done a piece of planning around business continuity and disaster recovery. So we were separating them away from their main organisation, so they were an entity of their own. And I'd already gone, what happens if a bomb goes off here? What happens if this river floods? What
Mm,
happens if this
mm.
happens? And the one thing I didn't plan on is a pandemic. I'd planned on the whole offices being out, being sick through some tummy bug and stuff like that. But I hadn't planned for a pandemic. But it was lucky because I'd already ordered in all of the laptops to replace out all of this kit and all the rest of it, and we were already moving to cloud. So we was in a really good position. But the guys that I would talk to on the service desks during that time, they were breaking. They weren't getting that management time. They were struggling mentally and emotionally as they were going through. And it was almost like a superhero syndrome kind of thing playing out,
Mm.
where they were the only people that could carry it forward, but they weren't getting the credit. And I felt really, really sorry for a lot of so because they were getting the brunt of it all as well. So, but that's a bit of a
Yeah.
waffly story.
Yeah, it was tough times. What's some common misconceptions or pushback that MSP, the help desks give you when you're trying to help optimize them with your platform, with your service?
Uh, time.
Mm.
So and it's a cycle as well. So BAU gets noisy, and then they can't continue with their continual improvement initiatives. But then they need those continual improvement initiatives to be completed to reduce the noise. So it's almost like a catch-22 situation. So that's probably the biggest pushback that I get.
And you remedy that how?
Cadence. So what I did was I took a learning from that. So now with the platform, what I do is I host a like co-working heads down focus session
Smart.
where each month I put like a whole afternoon aside, and anybody that's struggling to gain their traction, they can hop in. If they've got a problem or a challenge, they can shout up, and we help them out. So I thought that was the best way to do it,
Yeah,
is give
very
them
good.
that headspace rather than BAU taking precedence and firefighting. They've got something in their calendar which is clearly identified and marked as continual improvement, because without that, they're just going to end up in the same mess that they are.
BAU?
Business as usual.
Mm.
So sorry, my acronyms are slipping.
Yes, I didn't know that one. I knew most of them. I didn't know that one. Yeah, it can't be just business as usual. Very true. So if we go back like 10 years, just about 10 years, what's something you firmly believed then that you no longer believe now?
In terms of personal or in terms of the industry?
Whatever you'd like to answer.
Um, Good one. For me, um, I didn't think it'd be transitioning to the vendor side. I didn't ever think I'd be in the vendor
The
side,
dark side.
in the
Yes.
very, very dark side. We have a dark side already, depending on whether you're internal IT or MSP, and flipping the
Mm,
conversation. We've now got vendor, which is like the ultra dark.
mm,
Um, but in terms of business, I didn't ever think that we'd be ever having a question about replacing service desk staff with AI.
hmm.
Um, so I didn't think that would, or anybody, any role with being replaced with AI across the
Right.
whole world, across all industries. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I
It's a
knew we'd have
shocking.
automation,
Right.
but the thought of replacing people, I didn't think I'd ever be thinking about that kind of challenge.
Yeah. Hmm. Is there a question, Michelle, you wish more people asked you?
Uh, what question would I ask? Do you want to go for coffee? I don't know.
You wish more people asked you that.
Yeah, fancy a coffee?
Yeah, that
Yeah,
is
that's
nice. That
always a
is
win.
nice. Let's just
Coffee's always a
talk.
win. Yeah,
Yeah.
let's just chat and
Yeah.
chill.
Yeah. Get to know each other. Yeah. Because coffee is obviously just the lubricant in which we can, open up and discuss. Yeah, that's a really, really good answer. Is there a belief that you have, Michelle, that most people would disagree with?
Trying to think how I'm going to answer that one, Joey. There are probably a few. But I'm going to keep those to myself because I don't want to alienate anybody today. But I'll go with the one that overcoming obstacles and having challenges and obstacles in your life or in your work is a bad thing. That is definitely not true.
It builds you up. It builds character, resilience.
Exactly. And what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. That whole kind of mentality helps.
Yeah, it certainly does. So I started my MSP in the 90s, Michelle. I was in my 20s. I nothing could hurt me. I felt I was, I was invincible, and I was working 14, 16-hour days and not paying attention to my health. And next thing I know, I'm in front of the doctor, and she tells me I'm at 340 pounds. It's about 150 kilograms. And she says, if you don't lose this weight, and I knew I was getting bigger because of my exercise was diminishing, etc. She says, if you don't lose this weight, you're not going to see your daughter graduate. So my daughter was just born, scared the life out of me. I spent the next 6-7 months, lost about 130 pounds, I think about 60 kilograms. And I kept it off. You can't look at this as a finishing line, right? These are lifelong changes. And when people ask me, what's your secret? I say there's no secret. Discipline, right? Motivation, focus, routine. How does discipline play a role in your life?
It is, for me, it's about discipline is actually one of my personal core values. It's not the motivation that just gives me the inspiration to do something, but the discipline is what's going to get me there. So whether it has been starting my own business and working those ridiculously long days to do what I need to do, whether it is the not quite abandoning of my child. I forgot a couple of times at the childminders because I'd be focused on something. So there's a lot of focus and discipline in there. But also when it comes to things like all of my, I've got 2 degrees, a bachelor's and a master's, and both of those I did alongside work.
Wow.
So having that discipline to go home and go, do you know what? I'm absolutely exhausted, but I've got to write this 20,000 word dissertation or whatever it is. And getting through it, that for me was the discipline. Where I struggled, it was about having the support networks. And my dad is very education driven and anything that is career, or he will only babysit, or he only babysat my daughter when it was related to my education or my career. That was it. You wouldn't have it any other time. I couldn't go out with my friends, even at like 35. Not allowed to go out with your friends. I'm not babysitting then. But if it's a work event or a learning event, I'll babysit. So when I said I've got 20,000 words to write and I've got a weekend to do it in, he took my daughter and put me in a caravan at the farm, shut me in. He'd bring me tea and coffee. I was allowed out for a pee break every now and then. He would bring my lunch, but I was allowed out for 30 minutes. He took my phone off me, everything, and just made me work. And so it's having that support network around you as well. But yeah, it's about doing what you need to do. And for me, I link that as well to that 1% better. So for me, they're intrinsically linked. So discipline to be 1% better. And that drives me along with that personal goal of, am I going to be making a move towards my target of helping 350,000 people? So that was all of those together drives me to do what I need to do.
So what will be your celebration once you reach that 350,000 people? How will
I'll
you
have to
celebrate?
I'll spend probably an afternoon or a whole day thinking about what's next. Well, actually, it'll probably get to about the 275 mark, and then I'll be thinking, what's the goal beyond the goal? Because
Mm,
I think that if you hit that goal, you give up and you've got nothing to work towards,
mm,
and then
mm.
you lose that motivation, you lose that discipline because you don't know what you're working on. So probably around that 275 300 mark, I'll be sitting there thinking, right, what's next?
Mm.
And then I'll already be putting that in, and that'll be taking my next set of what I'm focusing on, but it'll be after, so it's kind of linear in my mind. What's next?
Mm.
Yeah.
Going back to discipline, as a child, we talked earlier, you said that your grandmother was a strict disciplinarian. Was discipline talked about, or was just kind of exemplified in the household and the farm there?
It was exemplified. You lived by that
I
discipline.
see.
So whether it was the case of getting up at a specific time and doing your jobs before being told not to, or chiseling concrete off bricks, or whatever she had us do, or
Mm,
whether it was like some form on the punishment side, there was it was very much educational in terms of being through a lived experience. But like I say, they teach you something as they go. They were done for a reason. I'd never might know what those reasons are, but they were done for a reason, and I can learn from them and use it to my advantage.
hmm. As I speak to you, Michelle, I'm trying to the art versus science question. Do you often involve your gut when making decision? I mean, how your decision process, how much is it science versus art?
It's very logical.
It is logical.
I often have, if I'm making
Engineering.
a decision, it'll be based on a number of criteria.
Mm,
Um, and if it meets those criteria, great. If it doesn't, then no. But that criteria can be very quickly gone through. So
mm.
sometimes, if it's a big decision, it can take a little while to come up with the response, but sometimes it can be quite quick as well. So I don't know why, but it processes quite quick.
Hmm. Has there been something in the last month or so you changed your mind on?
Probably not, Joey. I've had my head down focusing. But what would it be? Follow up strategy. Yeah,
Mm,
I am a fan of emailing and then hiding, but I actually made the
hmm.
decision to actually pick up the phone instead of emailing. And what I thought would be the outcome was not the outcome. So it was very, very positive, and I'll be doing more of that.
Hmm. Yeah, it is pretty easy sometimes to hide behind email. Send it off and say, okay, let's just wait now. And yeah, you
Yeah.
really can't do that. You got to be a bit more proactive.
Particularly, and I think this links as well with the service desk, because we say that service desk can be a bit of a keyboard warrior and Teams chat and email, but customer service stuff and support, it's easy to pick up the phone. It's when it comes to sales for me,
Mm.
and I hide, and I'm thinking, why am I doing that? But I'll pick up the phone to give somebody support,
Ah.
because it's that belief around sales was sleazy, and here I
Yes.
think is the key thing. Sales is sleazy, but actually you're wanting to help. It's just that you've got to do that transfer of money kind of activity. So I think that's probably the belief, is that sales doesn't have to be sleazy
Mm.
when it's done in service with the intention of helping somebody in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, a lot of MSPs suffer from that same notion, right? They think it's the used car salesman, sleazy kind of thing when you're trying to help. And by the way, your company won't survive without it. So
Yeah.
yeah, it has to be really prioritized. What gives you optimism, Michelle?
Oh, what gives me optimism? Do you know, I have a question about that. You know, when you see a glass that's like filled halfway ish,
Yes,
and the question is it half full or is it half empty?
that's right.
My often response is, it's just not filled to its optimum capacity.
Ah.
So I'm now thinking, what gives me optimism? And you've given me a really good pondering kind of question there. Um, I don't know. It's just if something's not going quite right, I just know that there is some form of action I'm either avoiding or not doing. I need to do that. But also that whatever it is, am I really going to care about it in 5 years' time?
Mm.
So having that mental capacity to be able to coach myself out of the bad times and crack on with what I need to do, I think gives me optimism.
What
Mm.
motivates you, Michelle?
Something exciting, Joey, is usually the one. So having those crazy goals. So the 350,000 help. It could be the jumping out of plane. It's got to be something that excites me, because if it doesn't excite me, it's unlikely that I'll do it or commit to it. So I did a 24-hour bike ride.
Whoa.
2 years ago now, not winter just gone, the winter before, and in 3 months from no exercise to a 24-hour bike ride.
Wow.
So it's like, that was a crazy enough idea to be able to get, okay, I'm going to do this. And it's a really stupid thing, but I went and actually trained for it, did
you.
it. And then because I didn't have that goal beyond the goal, all my exercise just dropped off. So it's now I've got to find something else that excites me to get me going again. So yeah, it's got to be exciting.
Want to show your love for discipline, inspiration, and the Joey Pinz podcast? Now's your chance. Introducing the brand new Joey Pinz merch store, where style meets discipline. Choose from premium apparel, cozy hoodies, stylish hats, durable bags, and your new favorite coffee mug, all featuring the iconic Joey Pinz logo. Perfect for podcast fans, discipline enthusiasts, or as unique gifts for friends and family. Every purchase supports the Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations podcast, helping us continue to inspire greatness and promote positive change. Visit joeypins.com/store today and wear your discipline proudly. Joey Pinz merch. Wear it, share it, and live it. So given that your motivation is excitement and thrill, how do you measure success?
Personal success. Probably if I'm still alive the next day, and I've not like fell off a bike trying to do a 24-hour bike ride and able to walk. I don't know. It's the achievement of doing a certain task, I suppose, and completing that. Yeah. But no, it's not celebrated. So it's really interesting to link success with celebration. Maybe it's achieving numbers. I've got to hit that 350,000, Joey, and then I'll tell you how I did it.
Very engineering. Yeah. You jumped from a plane. You did the 24-hour bike ride. You've set these goals up and you did them, and that's the success right there.
Yeah, I think it's the actual doing of and completing it. Celebrated or not, it's still, oh, I've done that. What's next? What's next? Yeah. Maybe the measure is how many times. Maybe I should have a metric of saying how many times I do a what's next conversation with myself. Maybe that could be my measure of success.
Yeah, I could do that too, by the way. Michelle, an absolute pleasure talking to you today. My goodness, thank you so much for your time today. Anybody watching or listening, how can they get in touch with you?
Oh, easy. They can drop me an email, hello@oprising.com. Reach out on LinkedIn. Just have a chat.
We'll make sure to put uprising.com in the notes as well as your LinkedIn. Michelle, I look forward to seeing you. You'll be there at IT Nation in November?
Quite possibly. I didn't actually expect to be on the program, so it was a surprise in itself. Yes. So I now need to think about what I'm going to do for the rest of the year, so I may well be there.
Yeah, the ConnectWise Pitch It program is a really cool program. I'm glad you're involved with it. Brings these vendors up like this that people may have not heard of and puts them in this kind of training, and then has a contest at the end of the year. I was a judge one year for the competition. Really great competition. I hope to see you then, and perhaps we'll have a cup of coffee or tea.
Good plan, Joey. I like it, and thank you for having me.
Michelle, be well.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening and or viewing Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations. Please share this episode with one or two of your friends who you think may benefit from the episode. Our website, www.joeypins.com. There you'll find lots of resources and you could join our mailing list. Please follow us on all our social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Podcast information, the video version of our podcast is on YouTube. Please subscribe. Audio is on all major podcasting platforms. Please follow them. And if you like it, please consider giving 5-star rating. Would really appreciate that. Thank you again for listening or watching Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations.